Because there's a lot of agents out there, man, that they want to sell with a phone. I think a lot of you listening, you would love to do that. But they just struggle to do it. They're like, I don't have the perfect script. I don't know what to say when they want me to mail them stuff. Or I've always done face-to-face sales. And so this transition's been tough. Maybe there's a lot of agents that probably tried during COVID, tried unsuccessfully. There was a lot that tried successfully, right, that pivoted.
Yeah.
Y'all pivoted quite a bit. I mean, because you were about a 50-50 field versus phone 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, we still had a good portion of the agency, just over 50% going door to door, kitchen table sales. They were used to it. And I remember to this day, the day Rory called me and said, we got to do something. And a week later, we had everybody transition over, and we really didn't lose anybody and didn't miss a beat. So
it's amazing.
We were fortunate. So
yeah, and the fact that you had been doing it for so long made it simple to transition into like, okay, everybody's going to do this. And because you think about it, what did you notice about the industry for those that maybe didn't pivot, or they weren't doing it, or they were only doing field? Because now you are doing probably 99% phone.
Yep.
You were 50-50. There's some that were doing 100% field, right? And there was times where, there was states and areas where you could just get away with doing whatever you wanted. Now, that's not necessarily the case for the whole country, though, right? There's a lot of areas where a lot of companies had to pivot. What did you see from all these different companies as they had to pivot? Some of them weren't prepared. They didn't know how to pivot. They lost a bunch of agents.
Yeah, trying to figure out technology and leads. And
some probably closed their doors, possibly, depending on how long they've been in business.
And I think I was fortunate, and I saw it at that time. Rory, when I first started 13 years ago, I said, well, let me ride along with some of the best salespeople because let me see how they close it. And he was smart enough to say, I don't ever want you to be in an in-home presentation so that when you're on the phone, you won't say, well, man, if I had just been in front of him. And so... Have
you ever been in an actual face-to-face appointment?
I've met some of my clients because I've sold friends and family and stuff like that, but I've never met a lead, I guess would be the thing. In 13 years, I've never met a single potential client face-to-face.
It's amazing. What would you say to the person that's like, dude, you have to start out in the field. You cannot succeed unless you start out in the field.
I feel like they're just two different beasts, and there are a lot of people, and I've met a lot, through you and 8% that can hybrid it and do both. And they'll call, and if they can't sell them, they'll drive out to their home.
I don't know if I like that, though, to be honest, right? What's your opinion on that? Truthfully, like your opinion. Nobody else's opinion matters right now but James Whitley.
I think they're seeing the guys that transitioned and some that struggled, and now they're all doing great, but is things that face-to-face are important, body language and what you say and picking up on stuff around you and different things like that. And over the phone, none of that stuff matters. I could be, making crazy faces and flicking them off over the phone and they wouldn't know it. But things that do matter, your voice inflection is a lot more important. And, I've always used the, I don't know why, but, maybe because it's a fun Christmas movie, but like in Die Hard, it's like if you took Bruce Willis out of Die Hard and just put him right here at the table with us, and he was reading the lines from Die Hard, hanging from the helicopter, doing all that stuff in the same intensity that he was doing it, you and I would be like, man, chill out. Like,
come on, Bruce.
What's going on? Like, calm down. But in the movie and in the context of things, it works. And so it's the same thing over the phone is, you've got to be, I think, more over the top than you are in person, because you would scare Mrs. Jones if you were, hey, Mrs. Jones, this is James, and you were sitting in their kitchen table. It might overwhelm them. So
right. And when you did when you first did telesales, you didn't have a script. How did you all figure out what to say?
A lot of trial and error. I always tell people too, it's like, game tape. I guess you're going to see, you're not going to see Tom Brady, but you are going to see Tom
My wife is.
And
you're
going to see the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But
Bucks and Cowboys week 1.
You talk about Tom Brady or, Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or all these people, and game tape, is so important to them. And so I always tell people with telesales, in the moment, like this interview, I'm not going to realize some of the stuff I said unless I go back and watch it. And I'm going to be like, oh, why did I say that? Or why did I do this? And the same thing happened for Grant and I. We'd be sitting there trying to sell over the phone and going back and listening to a recording that we did in a presentation that we did, whether we sold them or not. And just like Tom Brady can go back and see, okay, well, my foot was in the wrong position, or I didn't do the 3-step, or I didn't rotate my hips, or I didn't do this. We were able to go back and hear obvious buying signals, or obvious this or obvious that we didn't understand and pick up on. And so the things that were working, we kept using. The things that didn't work, I mean, I'll never forget, I coming from finance background, all that stuff, I thought the financial strength of the company I was selling and how long they'd been in business and their S&P rating and all this stuff mattered. And, nobody cares that American Amicable has, $1 billion in reserve and all this. They don't care about that.
You would think in theory it matters, right?
It mattered to me.
Yeah.
But
it probably does matter to a lot of more savvy, larger investors, right? A financial advisor could probably get away with that, like you talked about, more than a mal-expense agent. That's interesting.
But the client just wants to buy me, and so that's what we learned quickly is
it's good.
The people that I go off on a tangent with and talk about, Louisiana was like my favorite state. We started mailing that early on. And the people that I would get into gumbo conversations and the people that were obsessed on Aru versus okra. And like I found out it was like a religion. And so I just started asking every person to talk about that so they get to talk about anything but insurance so that I could then transition into insurance. And we just learned that through trial and error and doing research. And, unfortunately there wasn't a Cody Askins on YouTube back in 2009, to make it easy. So
that's hilarious. What would you say to if an agent was building a script from scratch right now today, what advice would you give them on how they should think through building that over time?
It's tough. We talked about this earlier and understanding the psychology of it, but I'm a numbers guy. And so I looked at it from statistics, and obviously you got to get from point A to point B. And so many agents understand that, but it's like, driving to the airport. I'm sure in Springfield here, there's more than one way to get to the airport. Yeah. And you might have your favorite route. Lauren might have her favorite route.
And then everybody else is wrong.
You got so you take Lauren's route. No. But,
exactly.
So that A to B point. And so we have a saying around the office where, people make fun of me for the math stuff. But as long as you're plus or minus one standard deviation, like above or below that, and you just don't get too out in left field, too often, I think too many people try and make it too robotic. So they're like, I got to read every single word verbatim to this, but you've got to be able to feel out what your client's doing and be able to. A lot of what we're scripting is just asking questions that are going to move the ball down the field, right? So since we're on this football analogy, right? It's 4 yards a carry, you win the game. Yeah. It's not big plays, but you're going to get a first down every single time. Actually, 3 yards a carry, you'd be able to.
Technically.
And so it may not be sexy, but you're just moving the ball down the field. So you don't have to throw the Hail Mary right in the beginning, but if you can just move the ball down the field and pick up little nuggets here and there, but maintain control, that's more of what we focus on, more so than here's exactly what you have to say in this moment at this time. So
it's good. Yeah, it makes sense. What was your biggest week ever? Do you remember what your biggest week ever was over the phone?
Not what they are now. I think I did over 10,000 one time to qualify for a trip, and that was a big deal. And it was, a big push week we had. And so I had a couple 10,000 AP weeks.
Still big though.
And that was a big deal.
Not
so much anymore. Now we have people doing it every single week. So we had a young lady out of Texas who did over 10,000 for 27 consecutive weeks. You saw her in Mexico. So and she won Ultimate Challenge, and so she did 27 consecutive weeks with her worst week being 10,000.
Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're gonna love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there. So I got 3 key questions for you as we kick this thing off right now. Number 1, what is it that you really want? What keeps you up at night? I'm going to read a text.